Hello everybody, welcome back to Screen Stars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2020 action horror film Shadow in the Cloud, a film that is co-written and directed by Roseanne Liang, and it stars Chloe Grace Moretz, who you may recognise from the Kick-Ass movies. Now, this film focuses on her character Maud Garrett, who makes her way onto a B-17 Flying Fortress during the Second World War and claims she has some top secret documents, which is why she has to be allowed on board this flight. Along the way there are some deceptions that take place. Things are not exactly as she claims them to be, and to top it off, they are also under constant threat of being shot out of the sky, as it's the Second World War. And to top it off, there is also an evil presence on board the flight that is hell-bent on causing destruction, and it is up to Chloe Grace Moretz's character to try and deal with all this. Right, that's the best way I could describe the film's plot without giving too much away. What are my thoughts on Shadow in the Cloud? Well, I actually was quite looking forward to this film. A good action horror film, especially set during the Second World War, can generally work quite well. And this film does have some things going for it. However, it's got an awful lot going against it as well, unfortunately. There's plot holes in it that you can drive literally trains through, never mind buses. There are ridiculous levels of believability. I mean most films, especially action films, you've got to suspend your disbelief to some degree, but this film really stretches that disbelief in some of the action scenes that it gives. And it also feels almost like a film of two halves, and I enjoyed the first half of the film far more than I did the second half. The first half felt more like a thriller, and it was mostly focused on her character, Chloe Grace Moretz's character, because when she gets on the plane, she has to give up like this case that she's carrying, which is she's reluctant to do, and someone has to look after it because she's got to go down in the cockpit below. You know, on the Flying Fortresses, when they've got these cockpits with the guns in it that they swivel around in, she has to go and sit down in one of them when she initially gets on the plane. And for a large chunk of the first half of the film, she's in this cockpit, and it's just her. And any communication that she has with other members of the crew, she has to like press a button and talk to them. So you get this back and forth of these World War II soldiers or pilots, whatever you want to call them, on this Flying Fortress, communicating with her quite disrespectfully, most of them, asking questions, and you get this back and forth conversation, and it's almost like a thriller at that point, you know what I mean? And I really like that part of it. And then she gets into a scrapes down in this cockpit, this creature, if you like, that is attaching itself to this plane, is targeting her, so she's got to try and stay alive in that sense. You've got the threat of these planes attacking that she can spot, and nobody else believes her, and they don't believe that she's seeing this creature climbing around the plane. And so it's quite tense, and yes, it is definitely reminiscent of the Twilight Zone, the famous Twilight Zone episode, and the bit in the movie as well. Was it John Lithgow who was in the movie with that bit? The gremlin on the plane thing. It's very reminiscent of that. There's no getting away from it. But the first half of the film was easily the best bit. Once she gets out of that cockpit in the most unbelievable way you can imagine, you've really got to suspend your disbelief here. From that point on, it really loses its focus. And there's things I want to say about it, but I can't because it'll give spoilers away. But from that point on, for me, it was all downhill from there, and it really lost focus, and was far less interesting than the first half of the film. I enjoyed the music score. I thought that was quite effective for the most part. I thought the effects were very good. No complaints really about any of the effects that I saw. It's like I say, it's got quite a decent budget behind this film. The performances are all fine. Chloe Grace Moretz is great with what she's given to do, and actually gives quite, I think, quite a layered and complex performance. When she first arrives on the plane, she's talking in an English accent, and that changes later on in the movie, which suggests, she's, almost like a double agent type thing. She's very smart, a very smart, clever, resourceful character. I just think what some of the things they had her doing in the film was just ridiculous. Really, it really was. So the performances were all fine by everybody associated with the film. It was a good music score, good effects, and a good idea. These sort of films can generally work quite well. But I would have much preferred for them to stay more on the cat and mouse type scenario, and by that I mean like this creature that was, attacking the plane and stuff like that. It was far better, like I say, when she was in the cockpit down below, and there was almost like a cat and mouse scenario where she's trying to outwit it and trying to survive. And when the rest of the crew kind of become aware of what's going on, it loses that tense factor. It doesn't feel as tense, the film, or as interesting. And there's no explanation really given about what this creature is and how on earth it is on this plane. And there's other explanations given in the narrative and the story that are kind of face palmy, if that makes sense. So there's an awful lot wrong with this film that it's hard to ignore, but the very core of it is quite an entertaining film as well. So it's somewhere in between, which is why I've given it a 5.5 out of 10. There is definitely some enjoyment there, but there's also an awful lot of problems with this film as well. So that's my review for Shadow in the Cloud. I hope you liked it. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to call back on the channel for more content very soon.